Have you ever imagined that a fun party could turn into the most horrific crimes? Our story today revolves around a young man who received an invitation to attend a strange party, only to find himself trapped between dark rituals and events beyond imagination. What is the secret of this invitation? And why did the night turn into an unbelievable scene? Prepare to live moments of horror and suspense, where truth becomes stranger than fiction. Hello, my name is Khalid. I am a young man who grew up in a well-off family, or as some say, from the wealthy class. Our life was similar to the life of any wealthy family, full of parties and sudden trips, but despite all this, I always felt a great inner emptiness. My father was a successful businessman, but he was always busy building his own world, while my mother was immersed in parties and social relationships. As for me, I was always alone, feeling like a stranger in the middle of it all. Despite this feeling, I loved one thing about these parties: they gave me an opportunity to escape boredom and get to know new people and places. One summer night, I received an invitation from an old family friend named Edward. Edward was a mysterious figure, known for his passion for art and music. His invitation was unlike any I had ever received before. It read, "I want you to be part of an experience you will never forget." I was bored at the time, and my curiosity led me to accept the invitation. On the night of the party, the driver took me to Edward's country house, a huge mansion surrounded by a dense forest. As soon as I arrived, I felt something strange, as if I was uncomfortable in this place. At the door of the mansion, Edward greeted me with a wide smile, but it was not comfortable. He was wearing an elegant black suit, and his gaze was strange and unconvincing. He led me inside, and there things began to take a strange turn. The mansion was filled with ancient artifacts and paintings painted in a dark style, where there were sculptures of strange creatures. The number of guests was very small, only about 10 people, but I tried to ignore it, convincing myself that it was just the personal tastes of Edward, who loved art. When we entered the dining room, we were surprised by an unexpected sight: a huge decorated table, and on each chair there was a piece of wood with hanging ropes that looked like gallows. This scene surprised everyone, so one of the guests asked Edward about the reason for this terrifying design. He smiled a strange smile and replied, "It's just a new decoration I added to my house to make the party special. Don't worry, just enjoy your meal." But his words did not reassure me. I felt as if there was something wrong with this place. We sat around the table and were served the most delicious and varied dishes. While we were eating, extremely loud and annoying music, but his words did not reassure me. I felt as if there was something wrong with this place. We sat around the table and were served the most delicious and varied dishes. While we were eating, extremely loud and annoying music started playing, as if it was played by non-human instruments. I felt a strange heat spreading through my body, as if my ears were burning from the inside. I looked around to see everyone eating the food greedily, while I pretended to eat without tasting anything. Moments later, I noticed that the guests started to feel dizzy. Suddenly, they started vomiting terrifyingly, and it was not just normal vomiting, it turned into vomit mixed with blood. The scene was shocking and fear controlled everyone. I tried to stay calm, but I was screaming internally. As I was searching for an explanation, I noticed that Edward was sitting quietly at the head of the table, smiling and whispering strange words in a language I had never heard before. Suddenly, the lights in the room went out, and the atmosphere became unnaturally cold. The candles on the table lit up by themselves, and strange sounds began to come from the corners of the room, as if something scary had been summoned. But what happened next was even more terrifying. One of the guests suddenly got up from his seat, went to one of the ropes, wrapped it around his neck, and then committed suicide in front of our eyes. Everyone was shocked, but before we could comprehend what was happening, other guests began doing the same thing. It was as if an invisible force was forcing them to commit suicide. I hid under the table, and at that moment I realized that the spells Edward was chanting were probably part of a ritual to summon demons, and that the food contained something strange that made them vulnerable to manipulation. I decided to escape by any means. I quietly crept towards the door, trying not to attract Edward's attention. I opened the door and ran without stopping until I reached the main road, where a passing car stopped and took me to the nearest police station. I told them everything that had happened, but when the police raided the mansion the next day, they found it completely empty. No bodies, no furniture, no evidence of a party in the first place. Just an abandoned house with a strange, suffocating smell. What I later understood was that if I had eaten that food, my fate would have been the same as the others. Since that night, my life has changed completely. I have nightmares every night, I hear strange music, and I see the faces of the guests begging for safety. But one question kept haunting me: was what I saw real? Or had I started imagining things that weren't there?